Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunatsu Sahaneryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Chanting the first verse. Athatra Vishayanandah
Athatra Vishayanandah
Brahmanandam Sharupabhak
Brahmanandam Sharupavak
Nirupyate Dvarabhutah
Nirupyate Dvarabhutah
Tadam Shatvam Shrutir Jagau.
Tadam Shatvam Shrutir Jagau.
Yeah. Continuing the discussion that we began last time with the first class, the introduction. And what have we covered so far? That there is no such thing as a Brahman bliss, which is described in especially modern Vedantic texts erroneously, which is outside, so this so-called Brahman bliss that is outside the ken of one's experience is not available. And even if it were to be available, how would you know that it is something desirable? Because you cannot desire a thing that you do not know. And so then, this Brahman Ananda, the Ananda of Brahman, if you say, really of means what? It's like saying the head of Rahu. Rahoho Shiraha. Rahu is a planet which is only head. Right? Yeah. And then if you say Rahu's head, what kind of a thing are you saying? You know? It is called Aupachariki Shashti, a sixth case that is just for the sake of speaking alone. It doesn't have any relevance here. So, you can't say Brahman, Anandas belonging to Brahman, because Brahman is nothing but all Ananda alone, and that happens to be you. So, the Swarupa of Brahman, the nature of Brahman is Ananda. And Ananda cannot be really translated as bliss, even though it frequently is. The correct translation of Ananda is limitlessness. And the day-to-day translation of Ananda is joy. Very interesting. So when we talk about the definition of Brahman, we say Satyam, that which exists, which is the source of all existence. Everything exists because Brahman exists. And this existence is a sentient existence. Therefore, the second one is Jnanam, consciousness. It's a consciousness. This existence is not a dead existence. And it's an existence, a conscious existence that is free of time. That's Ananta. With reference to the definition of Brahman, we say Satyam, Jnanam, Ananta. These are the three words that are used. Minimum we need 3 words. Then coming to Atma. What is the definition of Atma? The self? Sat, Chit, Ananda. You see how quietly. Sat is the same as Satyam. Chit is completely the same as Jnanam. Chit is consciousness, another name for consciousness. Jnanam, knowledge, another name for consciousness. It's all the same. But when we see the last word, what is the last word?
Ananda.
Ananda versus Ananta. Sounds similar, but two very different words with different meanings. Ananta means limitless. With regard to the definition of Brahman, we use a word indicating limitlessness. But when we, with regard to understanding the Swarupa of the self, we use the word Ananda. Somehow, quietly, there is a change from Ananta to Ananda. Very interesting. Ananda means happiness, joy. So therefore, since the first two words are similar in both cases, and Atma being Brahman, because there is no self other than Brahman, other than, which is not Brahman, and Atma being Brahman, we are forced to see that the third word, Ananta and Ananda, are also synonyms, even though they mean different things. And this is very interesting. Why is the word limitlessness changed to joy when it comes to the standpoint of the individual self? Because we do not know the meaning of limitlessness. Eternal, what does that mean, Limitlessness, infinity. Okay, big deal. What do I get out of this? Eternal. Eternal for us, in our understanding, or in our non-understanding rather, is something that hangs around in time for a long time. Like a chronic illness. I have been eternally suffering from back pain. You can say that. Or arthritis or whatever. So this shows that the word eternal, we have no concept of understanding, because one is stuck, as it were. Our language, our viewpoints are stuck in the time-space matrix. So eternal means for a long time. That's what one thinks. And besides, in order to understand that timelessness as the truth of oneself, it requires a lot of background, maturity and everything. And until the person has that, the person is not interested in Brahma Vidya at all. Person is not interested in Brahma Vidya because I don't need eternity. Eternally I am suffering. So if I have eternity, then I am going to be suffering even more. This is the Ajnani's understanding, the one who doesn't know. And so therefore, the Shruti, as I said, it is total hitam. Hitam means it's a source of comfort. So the Shruti changes quietly the Ananta to Ananda, because that limitlessness is nothing but happiness. Yeah, because what the individual wants is that forever. It's not the marriage, it's not the job, it's not the house, it's not the children, it's not the relationships. What I want is that forever. I want some things to last, including the I. And if the I is confused with the body, mind, sense complex, I want the body to last forever. So do I really want the body? No, I want the forever. And so that forever is Ananta, it is Ananda. So seen from the standpoint of the individual pursuit, the Upanishad changes it to show that indeed what you are seeking, this happiness, which you are seeking in finite places, is already infinitely you. So therefore it changes it to Ananda to make it relevant to the human pursuit. Because the human being has no concept of Ananta, eternal, other than a negative connotation. Oh my God, I am eternally, upset. So like that. And so therefore, the Ananda, also there is another reason, because when one is happy, there is no time. One transcends time. Yeah. That's why you say time goes by so quickly when you are having fun. There is an expression. Because when you are having fun, you don't know the passage of time. Really, because there is no time. There is no time, Yes, it is 1 o'clock. Yes, we said in the timetable that yes, we have a timetable for this course. Yes, we say we are going to start at 1 and finish at 2:15. All that is there. But this is a relative truth. The absolute truth is that there is no time. The truth of I is timeless. Because what is here is now. And the I is always in now. Now, 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 now. So what is the past? What is the past? Except other than that which is regretted in the present. There is no past outside the present. What is the future except that about which you are anxious in the present? That is the future. Okay, what is the present? So right now we are in class. Right now we are in class. Right now we are in class. Now, now, now. The length of now cannot be determined. The length of now is timeless. The truth of now is I. And this is what is called Ananda. Knowing this, we graduate. One graduates from being an experience hunter to knowing the truth of the experiencer of all experiences. That is the graduation. So in the opening verse, Swami Vidyaranya says, Vishayananda. Vishaya means objects. Vishinoti iti vishayaha. Vishinoti means that which binds. I told you the meaning of the words are in the words themselves in Sanskrit. Those that bind are called objects. Bind how? Because they make one addicted to them for one's own ananda, one's own happiness, one's own eternity, however you take it. They make one bound to those objects. One becomes enslaved to those objects. That's why they are called objects. Vishayaha. So the joy that is attached to the objects, where in one's own mind, the chocolate joy, ice cream joy, you see the joy is attributed to the ice cream, the chocolate, the fruit, some exotic fruit, some exotic experience, like going to some, concert or something, going for a holiday somewhere. So it's always thought that the joy is out there. So this is what is called Vishayananda, where the joy is seen to be attached to or inextricably linked to the objects. So to translate, we can call them object joys. Yeah. So atha atra, now here we are elucidating, nirupyate is elucidated, what the object joy is, joys are elucidated. And then Swami Vidyaranya says that they are nothing but Brahmananda Amsha Rupa Bhak. They are nothing but they are just a small portion of the joy belonging to the subject. So the object joys is a transference on part of the subject that is ignorant of itself. Because the subject joy is that which is timeless, it is its own nature, that which is free of up and down, because the nature doesn't change. So the Ananda doesn't have a graph. Today it's this much Ananda, now less, now that. Today I have the celestial Ananda, now I have human Ananda. No. The Swarupa Ananda is limitless and it is constant, it is there. And the so-called joy that is projected onto the objects, it cannot be a different joy. How many sources of joy are there? And if that joy is eternal, there is only one source, and that happens to be you. So you cannot have two, object joy and subject joy. Object joy is nothing but subject joy, found or transposed or transferred onto the objects. So we are making a certain kind of a transference, the same kind of transference in the story I told you yesterday, where the dog is transferring the juice that is coming from its own self onto the bone, onto the dry bone, which is in fact injuring it in the long run. It is scraping the sides of the gums of the dog, but the dog doesn't understand it. Likewise, the dogged Jiva who is going on in search, sniffing to pick up a few scents of happiness, also is so much projecting that joy outside because of the ignorance of the self, that one thinks that the object is what makes one joyful. Whereas the truth of it is that the subject joy is just, the object joy is borrowing from the subject joy, really. There is no object joy that is different from the joy of the subject. And the subject happens to be Ananta, and therefore the Ananda is also Ananta. Ananda is also timeless. And so, he says, this is what this chapter is going to show. And so this chapter is going to talk about how this object joy is nothing but subject joy. And it's just a small portion of this subject joy. And then we are going to, in the second line it says, Dvara bhutaha tad amshatvam shrutir jagau. So the Shruti has established that this is just a portion of the Swarupananda, one's own Swarupa, and then we are going to see, we are going to use the object joy as a doorway to connect to touch upon the subject joy, to discover the subject joy. Because otherwise we make the mistake of splitting them. There is object joy and then there is subject joy called bliss, and then I have to get this bliss, and then if I get this bliss, it is no different from coconut bliss. Coconut bliss is time bound. Self bliss is also likewise time bound because it is something outside of me and I have to procure it. That is the mistake one has kept on making for many, many lifetimes. And we have to reverse that here. And so we have to see that the object joy is just a projection of that very subject who happens to be joyful and free of limitations. And then he, in his classic way, like I told you yesterday, in his classic way, he talks about, he gives a Shruti quotation from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, fourth Brahmana, and I will tell you that later. It will talk about it in the second line. Eshosya paramanandah
Eshosya paramanandah
Yokhandaikarasaatmakah
Yokhandaikarasaatmakah
Anyani bhutanyetasya
Anyani bhutanyetasya
matramevopabhunjate
matramevopabhunjate.
Yeah. So this is matrameva upajivati. That is what it says. Anyani bhutani asya eshaha paramanandasya matrameva upajivati. That is the, what's its name? That is the quotation. Where? Which? Which Upanishad? No. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihat, large, big, Aranyaka, forest. Upanishad is also as big as the large forest. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishadi. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it is said that that all beings who are craving this joy, and who look for it in the wrong places, like the grandma's sewing needle, they're looking for it in the object, and somehow they manage, the projection seems so real that it's actually a psychological projection, really, of the joy that one is onto something else. And so since they are addicted or attached to this joy as coming from the objects, They are only able to take in a little bit, because everything that they seek is finite and there is little joy in every contact with the finite. So matram eva means a small fraction of it they enjoy. They enjoy a small fraction of that joy, says the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Why? Because of their own ignorance, which commits this projection. The projection is one of a mistaken location. Yeah. It's a projection. One does that all the time. Even one does that with people. Somebody reminds one of the mother. And then what is the relationship with one's mother? Not very good. One always, let us say, argued with the mother. It doesn't matter if the mother is in the body or passed away a long time ago, the internalized mother is carried inside here. And so if somebody behaves like the mother, then immediately one is put off by that person. This is a psychological projection. So one wants to spread the distance. One wants to put a 10-foot pole between that person and who is reminding one of the mother with whom there has not been a good association from childhood. Now let us reverse this example. Supposing one had a wonderful time with a mother, lovely experiences, the mother was as good as the Upanishad, who is like a mother. And mother was beautiful and very wonderful and loving. And you find somebody who reminds you of the mother. What do you want to do? You want to become their best friend. Yeah. Because there are positive feelings coming from where? Coming from that person? No. Coming from you. Your own positive feeling, you don't even know the person. You just had a coffee with them once or twice. That's all. You don't even know them properly. But based on your own projections from the past, from the past memories of whether you've had a good experience or a horrible experience, you commit a transference, a projection. And your behavior with that person will be based on your own memories. And if those memories are wonderful, you will find that you want to get closer to that person. And if those memories are not even worth talking about, then you will just say, if they say, oh, we've had such a good time, let's have coffee again, you'll say, I think I'll take a rain check. Not today. And sometimes the transference or the projection is so strong that you don't even know why one is doing it. You say, this person is a perfectly nice person, so nice, and why am I having such a reaction? It's all you have to go back in time. You see? So even with regard to people, we have this projection. And so likewise with the joy, also we do the same projection. We have two kinds of projection. With the joy also. So the things that we are very fond of are what it is called adhyasa, a superimposition. A subjective superimposition based on past memories. Smriti Rupa eva adhyasa, the Adi Shankara says in the introduction of the Brahma Sutra. That this adhyasa, what is the basis for this superimposition? My own memories. Yeah. Even though you don't know that you remember, there is something there, subconscious, unconscious, it's there. So the unconscious creates a projection. And if it's a positive projection, it is called Shobhana Adhyasa, a positive projection. The second example, somebody had a very loving mother, and then that person met someone just like that. And then so there are positive feelings evoked, and there is nothing wrong with somebody evoking positive feelings. When it becomes a problem is when you start seeing the mother in that person, and when that person is really nothing like your mother. There is some memory of that, that's all. Okay? So this is Shobhana Adhyasa, a positive reinforcement. And then there is a negative reinforcement of the memories onto another person, and that is called Ashobhana Adhyasa. Shobhana adhyasa and Ashobhana adhyasa. Ashobhana is negating that. So our whole lives are spent in searching for Ananda. How? Dodging through these positive and negative transferences. Alas, but true. True, really true. It's an approach avoid cosmic dance. Cha cha cha. So the things that attract are very subjective. The things that detract are also very subjective. The things that are, that seem very, very wonderful are extremely subjective. The things that seem repulsive, for which I have a great revulsion, are also extremely subjective. And really it goes back to one's unconscious bank. The bank of the unconscious, the storehouse of fears and desires. And what is the storehouse of fears and desires other than Ragadvesha? Correct? Yeah. So therefore, even though the joy of the self here, Swarupananda, joy of the self, Vishayananda, joy is belonging, supposedly attributed to the objects. So even though the Swarupananda is there all the time, where? In each and every person, there is difficulty accessing this joy. That is why one ends up only experiencing a fraction of that joy. Experiencing means living, assimilating, abiding in a fraction of that joy, where the keys to the universe are with the self. It's like someone has a huge property, but then spends all the time in one corner. We are not able to access that joy because of the storehouse of fears and desires, also called ragadveshas, both conscious and unconscious, that have been nurtured in the mind. And so if this Ananda is to be felt, to be discerned, where is it going to be discerned? A, in the nose, B, in the toes. Where?
In the mind.
In the mind, naturally. Again, the mind is not an agent of this joy, but it is a location where the joy is discerned. So in the mind itself. And so if the mind is fraught with all kinds of problems, correct? Then the expression of this joy is inhibited. And that is why the next set of verses, and I'll tell you which so you can enjoy anticipating them. So verses 1 and 2 are the introduction. Introduction to how the Ananda attributed to the Vishaya is going to be used as a doorway to call the spoof, the bluff, that there is only Swarupananda, only Brahmananda, only one Ananda. And this attribution is the result of self-ignorance, and the Shruti also says that because of this self-ignorance, one is always doing this attribution, a positive or a negative transference, and therefore one ends up only experiencing a fraction of that joy, which is the subject joy. This was the first two verses. Now verses 3 to 6 will talk about the various states of the mind and how they come in the way of understanding and enjoying oneself. Shanta ghorastatha mudha
Shanta ghorastatha mudha
manaso vrittayastridha
Manaso vrittaya sridha.
Vairagyam kshantiraudaryam.
Vairagyam kshantiraudaryam.
Ityadhyashantavrittayah.
Ityadhyashantavrittayaha.
So right away he says that there are 3 modes of the mind. Only 3? I thought I had 25. He clubs them all into 3. You know, there are 3 colorations of the mind. And the first one is called Shanta, calmness. A calm state of the mind. And the second one is called Ghora, a terrible state of the mind, a terrifying, frightening state of the mind. Frightening here means extremely agitated. Shanta, extremely calm. And then Ghora, agitated. And then finally, Mudha. Mudha means what? Dull. Extremely dull. You have to keep saying the same thing. And the person keeps on doing whatever they want. You know? It's not a matter of intellect. It's a matter of non-availability. That is what it is. Non-availability due to preoccupation with the fears and desires. This is what it is. So these are the 3 states of the mind. Who hasn't experienced these? They are extremely universal, correct? Yeah. As soon as you wake up in the morning, the mind is Mudha. Because you have to think, okay, where I am? Who am I? Where? Who am I? Generally, hopefully you don't have to ask. But where am I? What do I have to do today? What day is it? Head doesn't run, you know. Mind doesn't run at all until it has had a few cups of caffeine, and then it will say, oh yeah, today I have to do this. Today is Wednesday. Later on, the Jnanodaya takes place, you know. And likewise, when one is very tired, what is the vritti? Mudha. Because somebody keeps saying something, you say, okay, TMI. What is TMI? Too much information. Can't process. Stop. Time out. I need a time out. Mudha. Likewise, when one is sick, has the flu, fever is raging in the body, the mind also feels affected by that. And so you can't ask that person to solve an important calculus equation at that time. And then when one is really hungry, Shvetaketu was told to fast for 10 days in another place in the Chandogya Upanishad. And then what happened? The Shvetaketu was asked to chant the Samaveda, and he could not even remember the first mantra. He could not even remember Agnaya ki vitaye grinano havyadataye. He could not remember. The first mantra he could not remember. Okay, now some complicated ones you may forget. Like if somebody is asked to say the alphabet, they could not remember the first letter. Like that. Mudha. Why? Because the mind is not being nourished, because the body has been starved for 10 days. So these are the general reasons, the general and kind of, valid reasons why there is the existence of the Mudha Vritti. Vritti here means a modification of the mind. So the mind morphs into Mudha under certain valid circumstances. If the mind is not nourished, if the mind is not awake, if the mind is very tired, yes. But sometimes Mudha becomes a way of being for some people. Yeah. There is not that they are always in the Mudha mode, but this is the predominant mode. The predominant mode of living for some people is the Mudha Vritti, dull, inertia, sloppy, neglectful, slothful. It will be described later. I'm just giving a general introduction. Then there is the Ghora Vritti, a mental modification known as agitation. So when is the mind agitated? What are some times when the mind is agitated?
Crisis.
Some shock, crisis, and then it could also be as a result of certain medication. People get angry and then you say, okay, this is the side effect of this medication. It could be like that. It could also be when one doesn't get what one wants. Yeah. Ghora Vritti. One doesn't get what one wants, one gets agitated, restless. How many times does one actually get what one wants? Hardly. So the likelihood of being in Ghora Vritti for a long time is very high, correct? Yeah. And then finally we have what is called the Shanta Vritti. And he describes also, Shanta means that which is calm, non-reactive, which is even, not subject to fluctuations all the time, and which is accommodative. He's going to describe this. Let us read the verse. Shanta Ghora Tatha Mudha Manasaha Vrittayas Tridha. Tridha means threefold vrittis are there in the mind. First line, Shanta, Ghora and Mudha they are called. We have seen what they are. And then he describes Shanta Vritti in the next line. Vairagyam. Vairagyam means the ability to let go. Let go of what? Everything. Old grudges, old unfulfilled wishes, old tired things that are not working, things in the house that need to be thrown away or recycled, but one hasn't gotten round to it. So the Shanta Vritti is not a procrastinator. A procrastinator has trouble letting go. This is something, there is a connection. Because why do you procrastinate? Because you don't want to enter that next phase. You want to hold on to whatever is there. Some people have trouble winding up things because they're afraid of what is going to come. So they just hang in one stage of life or one job all the time. One job means not your career, but I'm talking of one particular set of actions that need to be done. They will not finish it. And this is, the opposite of Shanta Vritti. Shanta means the ability to command. The one commands an ability of being in the now, calmly, non-reactively, and being able to just take what comes. And so the mind should be free of those two projections. What are they called? Shobhana Adhyasa and Ashobhana Adhyasa. The positive and the negative projections, a mind that is free of that is called Shanta. So Vairagya is to let go of these projections. And then Kshantihi, not Shantihi here, Kshanti. Kshanti means accommodation. Yeah, accommodation. How often is one able to accommodate? Tell me. Accommodation means what? That you have a commodious heart. That you are able to let go and allow people their transgressions. There is a prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we Forgive those who have trespassed against us. But do we really forgive those who have trespassed against us? Or are we just saying the prayer? You know? Forgive means what? The ability to say, okay, they have their own background. There is a reason why they are behaving like this. I may or may not know the reason, but Namaha, let them be. I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm going to rise above this and not hold it against them. Not hold their omissions or their commissions against them. Kshanti. And then that is one of the makeup of the vritti, Shanta vritti. Then finally one more. What is the other one? Audaryam. Udara means a certain what is it called? Generosity. Audaryam. Udarasya bhavaha audaryam. Udara means a certain generosity. Letting things and people be in their places. Lack of control, because generosity is the opposite of control. And who hasn't experienced all these three things? I'm sure that everybody has had the experience of saying, all right, chalo, chhod diya, means okay, I've let this person be, it's all right. They have done some not very nice things, but let bygones be bygones. It's not exactly forgiveness, but I accommodate. My heart is big enough to accommodate whatever they are doing, which may be hurting me. So I use this opportunity to grow out of the hurt by interrogating my own expectations rather than blaming them. Kshanti. And then one has also experienced the second thing. What is the second thing?
Audaryam.
That's the third thing. What is the other thing? Vairagya. First thing, Vairagya. One has experienced letting go, Vairagya. You let go of things, let go of people, let go. And in letting go, you grow. This is the Shanta vritti, the prasada of the Shanta vritti. And Audaryam, of course, one has experienced. To be generous, you know, to be able to give of oneself, to be able to share what one has, and to not think of what will I get out of this. To be able to share because that is the correct thing to do in this moment, in this context. These are the three qualities that come under what is called Shanta vritti. In other words, it's a sattvic state of mind. There are three colorations with which this whole Jagat is painted. Maya has a palette, you know, we have three primary colors. What are the three primary colors?
Red, yellow,
And
blue.
Red, yellow and blue. And every other color is, you know, these three. Every other color is from the primary colors. And so too, the palette of Maya with which she paints the Jagat. She has three colors in the palette, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So everything in this universe, except the subject who is the observer of all this, including the body-mind sense complex of the subject, is painted with these colors. Fantastic it is. So everything has Sattva, Rajas and Tamas in various measures. Sometimes little bit of this, little bit of that, too much of that. And you look, and the foods are also sattvic. There are certain foods that are sattvic. Raw food, sattvic. Of course, the only problem is the tamasic digestive system cannot digest it. so they say don't eat raw food. But the food itself is sattvic. Almonds, sattvic. See, anything that you see nowadays, they are touting them as antioxidant. They are all sattvic. Anything that furthers life is sattvic. Fresh is sattvic. Organic is sattvic. Styrofoam, is it sattvic?
No.
What is your guess?
Tamasic.
Tamasic. Yeah, not tamasic, tamasic. Yeah. And so, see, you can see that. And then they say, or, this certain foods are rajasic, the second color of the palette of Mahamaya. And that is activity, restlessness. See, each of these in balance has certain positive qualities, these gunas. And then negatively, they have certain, if out of balance, they have certain negative qualities. So rajasic means what? In balance, it is activity. Some activity is needed and some restlessness is needed. Otherwise, how will a shoot? That's why it's called shoot. It shoots through. Think of the energy that is needed for this little seed with a miserable amount of water we pour on it to make through the layers of the soil and say, I am here. Here I am. And I am here to stay. It is life. It is alive. You see that. It's so beautiful. That has to have a certain amount of rajas. But then out of balance, what happens? The rajas turns into glowing coals of anger. Where? In the eyes. all the red is coming out. Yeah, the person is, very angry. Anger, restlessness, inability to be calm, anxiety, panic. These are the flip side of what is called rajasic vrittis, or here it is called ghora vritti. But you find this all over the universe. In the palette of Maya, you find everything there. Animals, certain animals are rajasic. They are extremely restless. And certain animals are tamasic, Most of the time they are sleeping. You have to prod them to wake them up, And certain animals are very sattvic, like the cow. You look into its eyes, it is unafraid, it is just there, it is harmless, it doesn't harm anyone. So like this, each and everything in the universe has these three gunas. So rajas we have taken, tamas, you see that in the food also. You keep something in the fridge for 10 days and eat it on the 11th day. Yeah, and if you don't end up in the hospital, then that is an example of tamasic food, Yeah. And this is all described in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It says that yatayamam gatarasam means the leftover, which is left over for a long time. Yeah. And which then becomes a science project, because you see all colors of fungi on it, it becomes everything, and then you cannot eat that. In fact, according to the Bhagavad Gita, you have to cook freshly every day. If you want to be abiding in the Shanta vritti of the mind, which is the sattvic vritti, all you have to do is to feed it sattvic food. It will help a long way. That's not all you have to do, but you have to feed it sattvic food. So the whole universe runs on this coloration. These three colors. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and Maya is a great painter. She doesn't make a mistake. Everything has the same colorations in different, measures without any flaw. And tamas also is needed. Without tamas, nobody will get rest at night. You will be up all the time. But again, in small measure. Too much of tamas means what? Depression. That is tamas. Anger is rajas, depression is tamas. And along with depression, all these other things that come. Apathy, not feeling like getting up in the morning, not feeling like doing anything, no ambitions or goals in life. Yesterday somebody asked the question, if I'm supposed to be akarta, why I should get out of bed? Akarta, yes, but that doesn't mean that you stop doing things. You know you are not the doer. There's no reason to stop doing whatever you enjoy. And so like this, the tamas in excess or in imbalance is also this whole, the whole world goes in imbalance if tamas is in imbalance. The mind also is unbalanced if there is too much tamas. Now how about sattva? We saw accommodation, generosity, all this is sattvic qualities. What is sattva? Imbalanced. Thankfully, there is no such thing called the sattvic overdose. Can you be too accommodative? You may say yes, Shruti says no, Bhagavad Gita says no. No, but what if people take advantage of me? Who is that talking?
The non-accommodative.
The non-accommodative person is talking, or perhaps the fearful person is talking. Yeah. Fearful person is talking. And listen to the lecture, I always have time for questions at the end. If you're typing the questions, you will not be able to listen at the same time. So save the questions for later, okay? Yeah, I will answer them. So there are these three predilections of the mind. And therefore what we have to do, Swami Vidyaranya says, is that we have to bring it back to the sattva. Slowly from the tamas, from the grip of the tamas and the grip of the overtly rajasic state of mind, we have to gently bring it back to sattva. Because the sattva is the only place where you don't have an excess. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is told something. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Veda means this whole, every piece of knowledge that is in the Veda, and the Veda here means the entire body of knowledge, belongs to what? These three gunas. It's also colored by the three gunas. Certain rituals will be rajasic, certain rituals will be tamasic, certain rituals sattvic, all these things. So Maya has not even, stopped short of the Veda, which is part of the creation. If the entire creation is filled with the coloration of these three gunas, the Veda is also not exempt from that. And Arjuna is then advised, Nistraigunyo bhava Arjuna. Transcend these gunas. That is how you transcend the grip of Maya. Because the grip of Maya is that the colorations bind. So it looks very attractive. Just like you go to a museum sometimes and you can get lost in a painting. You can get totally lost in a painting. In fact, you feel like you're entering the painting, you have become one and merged with the painting. There are some paintings like that. In India also there are some, there is a museum which has a painting like that. Because it's all the greatness of the painters. And then there is another painting in the museum, in the Maharaja's museum in Mysore. And you go there and the portraits of the Maharaja and his family, the wife, the king and the prince and the princess is all there, and some other relatives are there. And they're all nicely dressed. They're wearing shoes and, standing there or sitting there for the portrait. It's a painted portrait. And the portrait painter is so talented that wherever you go, like if you approach the painting like this, the feet will be pointing towards you only. It goes like this. It's a trick. It's a trick painting. And where did these big painters learn these trick paintings? Where did they learn them from? Mother Maya. She is the original trick paintress, trick artist, where she basically invites you into this web of sattva, rajas, tamas, and then what happens? Trapped, caught. Yeah, and then you say, oh, I'm not having a good time all of a sudden. I feel terrible, I feel apathetic, I feel angry, I don't want to be angry, I want to be happy, I want Ananda. This is the problem. Trapped on one level by this alluring painting, which even includes the body-mind-sense complex. The mind, as we see, is also not exempt from being affected by this coloration. By the palette of Maya has touched the mind and crafted this mind most of the time. And one gets hopeless with the state of the mind and wants to say, never mind, I'm sick of this mind. But really speaking, Arjuna is told the correct thing. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. These Vedas and everything in this universe is tainted with this coloration. But you, who is the subject, is exempt. You are the only thing in this universe that is exempt from this coloration. Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Recognize that. Become free from the lure or from the trap of these gunas and these vrittis. Become free. How? How to become free? By holding on to sattva. That is how. Because that's the only one that does not have an excess of the negative connotations. Doesn't have an imbalance. So from rajas and tamas, I make my way to sattva. Nirdvandvo nitya sattvastha niryoga kshemah atmavan. This is how to transcend the gunas. If you look at the second chapter of the Gita, this is the advice that is given. Nirdvandvo means free of duality. Nitya sattvastha, free of duality, you become how? By making your home in sattva. It's a very persuasive argument. Making my home in sattva means that I adopt a sattvic lifestyle starting now. What I put in here, what I ingest, and it's always very intriguing to me on this note of what I ingest, what one ingests, is that people call something junk food. How can you use the word junk and food in the same sentence? How is that possible? It's either junk or food. Junk means you throw it away. And what is this? The stomach is a dustbin, that means. If junk is food, then stomach becomes a dustbin. This is not a sattvic lifestyle. So adopt a sattvic lifestyle and then see the effect of the sattvic lifestyle on the mind. This is the advice given in the 18th chapter 1, the Bhagavad Gita. And it is very relevant here because we have to make our way from the inertia of tamas to the anger and restlessness of rajas back to sattva. Nitya sattvastha, make sattva my home. And anything one ingests, let it be a conscious ingestion of sattva. And anything that you ingest mindfully is a sattvic way of eating. So not only what you eat is sattvic, you can have the best of organic foods, and what do? Gobble, 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 because you're in a hurry. That is not a sattvic way of eating. So the sattvic food, eaten in a sattvic way, not making everything into a television dinner, and and doing this in a way that is, it automatically has a effect on the mind, because the food that you put in the body also nurtures the mind. So Nitya Sattvastha, a disciplined lifestyle where I always attempt to be sattvic in my ways. Niryoga Kshemaha, another aspect of going towards sattva, is to learn to give up the concern for yoga and kshema. What is yoga? Apraptasya prapanam yoga. That which is not gained by me, but which I want. Something yet to be gained is called yoga. Praptasya rakshanam kshemaha. The protection of that which has already been gained is called kshema. The whole life, if you look at carefully, the reason for rajas and tamas to come is an over concern for yoga and kshema. Oh, will I get what I want? Or will I get what I don't want? How to protect what I want and what I have? How to retain what I have, which I already want? And how to get rid of the things and keep them at bay, what I don't want? All this is included in yoga and kshema by extension. And so therefore, as long as one yoga and kshema are the driving forces in one's life, one cannot be sattvic. Sattva cannot predominate because one is driven by fear and desire. Desire is nothing but tamas, fear is nothing but rajas. So how can there be a sattvic mindset? Tell me. Not possible. So niryoga kshema bhava. So in order to be sattvic, again this is connected to what Swami Vidyaranya is saying, vairagya as the first qualification of a sattvic mindset. So niryoga kshema, give up. Have a certain dispassion towards what you want and what you don't want. Oh, but who is going to take care? If I don't take care of what I want and don't want, who is going to take care of that? Again we go back to the Bhagavad Gita. Although this is a Panchadashi class, it is relevant to quote this. Ananyaha chintayanto ma Ananyaha chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahami aham. Bhagavan Krishna makes a promise in the Bhagavad Gita. For those who are bent upon attaining me as the truth of themselves. In other words, people who are attending Vedanta classes, really. For those who are committed to attaining me as the truth of themselves and who look upon me as that which is not separate from them and who meditate upon me in that way. And for those who are leading a disciplined life, I will bear, Vahami, I will bear the responsibility of giving them what they need and taking away from their lives what they do not need. So yoga and kshema we relinquish to the source which is really in charge of the yoga and kshema, and so the mind becomes free for other pursuits. And the mind also, even if there are no other pursuits, even if Vedanta, if we are talking to a non-Vedantin, the mind becomes free to discover that it is indeed Ananda. And not just a small fraction of that Ananda. The mind becomes free to live that Ananda. There is no more inhibitions. So you see how long we have come here. So first we see that there is a coloration. Everything in the universe is painted with the palette of Mahamaya. And in this palette there can be excesses and there can be deficiencies, and then the mind is also subject to this, the paintbrush of Maya, and then what? But at the same time, I am not trapped. The only thing that is exempt from this coloration is the I, the one who is the indweller of the body-mind-sense complex, distinct from the body-mind-sense complex. So that I is free of this coloration. So how do I know that? By making sure that the mind, which is the place where this knowledge takes place, is free of the other two excesses, which is tamas and rajas. So by firmly holding on to a sattvic lifestyle and a sattvic mindset, I go a long way in clearing, in doing this internal clearing, so that I see that the joy of the self is alone is, and the joy attributed to the objects is just that. It's a mere attribution. And so how to catch hold of this sattva? A disciplined lifestyle, a lifestyle of proper eating, proper sleeping, proper waking up, and then keeping Ishvara in view. A lifestyle of karma yoga. Karma yoga is not just being an ethical person, that's fine. But here I use the presence of Ishvara, the source of everything, as a place, as an altar of surrender, where I surrender my fears and desires and leave it in the lap of Bhagavan. Let whatever comes is good for me, let it come. I pray for it and I let it go, so that the mind is free for higher pursuits like the knowledge, and the mind is free to enjoy a higher level of this Ananda, which was previously not experienced by this mind, or not experienced in this mind. And so therefore, these three vrittis and the mind belonging to these three vrittis become an important discussion. Let us read further. Next, verse number 4 describes the Ghora and the Mudha vrittis. Krishna sneho raghalobha,
Krishna sneho raghalobha,
avidyadya ghora vrittayah, avidyadya ghora vrittayah, sammoho bhayamityadyaah,
Sammoho bhayamityadyaah.
Ityadyaah. Sammoho bhayamityadyaah.
Sammoho bhayamityadyaah.
Kathita mudha vrittayah.
Kathita mudha vrittayah.
Trishna. Trishna means not to be confused with Krishna. Okay? Yeah. It is Trishna. Trishna means what? Longing. Sneha, clawing. Clawing means, like overly fond of things, clinging to things. A love for the objects, it is said in the translation. What is there in the translation? I am not looking at the same book.
Love for objects.
Love for objects, yeah. I am looking at a different book. So yeah, too much love for objects. And then raga, everybody knows raga, correct? Yeah. Raga means strong preferences. Lobha. Lobha means
Greed.
avarice, yes, greed. Yeah, if the sound is not good, you please try logging out and logging back in. I don't think other people are experiencing that. It's okay. So the greed, too much attachment to the objects, clinging on to people and things and emotions also, longing, etc. are the rajasic mental modifications. Whereas sammoha, delusion, bhaya means what? Fear. And I will also add depression, even though he doesn't say it, sorrow, etc. are the main ones which come under mudha vritti or the tamasic modifications. This is just the translation. We will see this verse at length tomorrow. So now we will have some questions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Yeah, so some questions were there. Let us look at that. Yeah, the mind is a medium to recognize the joy, because otherwise what is the, without the body nothing is possible, even the pursuit of knowledge is not possible. So yeah, that's correct. Please define kshema. I think I did. Praptasya rakshanam kshemaha. Rakshanam means the protection of what I already have, which includes keeping at bay what I don't want. Okay? Yeah. Any questions here? Yes? No?
Vairagya and Niryoga.
Same. I told you there's a connection. Yeah. Same. Vairagya means giving up yoga and kshema, pursuits. Jivan Mukti Viveka. That is the name of the other text. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can see the audience. No, I don't have a problem with that at all. Yeah, come this side, Harinder. Somebody. First you see Lord Dakshinamurti. Yeah. There he is in all his glory.